deserve to have the best physical, mental, spiritual. Zealous Wellness with Mike Hollis.
Hello, and thank you again for joining my second ever podcast. I'm Mike Hollis, and this is Zealous Wellness. And as you that watched the last episode, for all of you that did, my passion is in health, wellness, life longevity, happiness, truthfulness, just everything that's good. I want to be happy and live as long as I possibly can and enjoy my life. And I love sharing that passion with others and sharing and how they can do that as well, really. And I've got some insights on some things that I've grown up with during my my whole NFL career, and even when I was after I retired, I've gone through the phase of getting heavy and losing weight and gaining weight and kind of that yo-yo kind of concept, and I really am kind of intrigued with the kind of the mindset that people have today with regards to just kind of the I don't want to say laziness, but just kind of what people are doing. It's a very comforting thing to kind of just eat the foods that you are familiar with, and now that I'm kind of learning a lot more about proactive wellness and just nutrients and phytonutrients and just what it is we're putting in our body, where that food is coming from, it's a huge deal with regards to now I know why people like the United States is the most obese country in the world. There's a lot of reasons for that. I'll talk to you guys a little bit about my opinion about that. All this stuff, that the information I'm providing for you is going to be my opinion, just my personal experience of what I've learned throughout my life, and just what my body has learned and what I've experienced mentally and physically with my body and the foods that I've eaten and the activities that I have or had not done. Again, I can share all kinds of stories about my life and where I've been and how it's affected me. But my biggest passion is helping, bring awareness to, just a healthier lifestyle, just, what we've been put on this earth to do, and, serve others and just be happy and humble and just enjoy life. And I can promise you that the times that I was not very healthy, I was not enjoying life very much. It was very depressing and very, it was long days and, just a very, very dark place when you consider just, your attitude when it comes to, your life and really what it is, what am I supposed to be doing here on this earth? And you learn a little bit about yourself in those dark moments. And I've learned a lot about myself in those as well. So I want to I definitely are going to be sharing a lot of information about just, the things that I've done in my past and how you can relate to that as well. And just give you a different way of thinking about, the kind of things, the choices that you're making on a daily basis, because I did too. I realized some things and had to make some different choices throughout my lifetime. But before we get into all that, I want to just pause for a minute and share a word from our sponsor, and we'll be right back.
At 3, we want to give you the true health benefits that you're paying for, something you can feel and see a difference quickly. Each product is packed with powerful plant-based nutrients that are combined through a proprietary curation process and then infused with innovative cellular absorption technologies to ensure the nutrients absorb into the cells for maximum wellness. The quality and effectiveness of our life-changing products is evident by their approval to be included in the well-known Prescriber's Digital Reference, or PDR. PDR has been a valuable resource to the medical doctors and providers in the healthcare community for decades. Our products are GMO-free, clinically studied, and third-party tested, all designed to support health and proactive wellness for everyone.
So welcome back. Yes, that commercial there just kind of points a few things out. Absorption is one thing. It's a really important thing to understand that there was that old kind of that philosophy is what we are, what we eat. I think that's a little aged or outdated because it's a little bit more specific than that, because our absorption levels are not really good in our body. We don't absorb a lot of good stuff in our body naturally. Not to mention things that are just poorly made and just not the phytonutrients in the foods we're eating today really aren't really there. I mean, if you think about all the processed foods, and you want to break down phytonutrients, and phytonutrients really is the term is really meaning the medicinal part of the plant, the nutrients that are medicinal, meaning things are going to really heal us from the inside and take care of our bodies the way we're supposed to be on a daily basis. And so there's a lot of processed foods out there, and I can promise you, even if you're fast foods, you go to your grocery store and or fast food, you eat different places, different kinds of foods that are available. And going back to what I was mentioning before, with regards to kind of just the attitude of being comfortable again, I don't want to use that word lazy again, but it kind of is, and I've caught myself too. I'm a victim. Everything that I don't want to offend anybody. I never do that on purpose, of course, but I do say things that can be offensive sometimes. But just remember, I did it too. I lived it too. I'm a victim of that as well. I'm a victim of being incredibly lazy especially during those dark times I was mentioning before, but it's really the education part is really where I think people are missing out. And going back to my point a second ago about, processed foods and fast foods, there are not, especially fast foods, there's no phytonutrients in fast foods at all. So if you want to be healthy, obviously you understand, nutrients and the things you're eating are, you're gonna result from, right? We are what we eat. Actually, we absorb. But again, if you're eating a bunch of junk, you're gonna feel and look, maybe appear like junk. I mean, it's really a common sense kind of thing. But again, going back to that concept of being really lazy and just comfortable and just and again, I'll add another thing too, that our society is so busy. We're on the fly so much, and I try not to be super busy. I don't want my life to I don't want to look back on my life and all the years that I've lived and and think, man, I spent so much time with my occupation or so much time with things that were just making me money, making me a living. That's great. But when you get to a point where you're spending all your life doing that, there's more to life than just working. And yes, earning income is obviously part of it, but there are ways to earn income in a much healthier and more active way, and more, communicatable, we'll say, with regards to your friends and relatives and just people and associates and having a good time with it, instead of having that concept of sitting in an office all day long. And I don't remember ever hearing anybody who was really happy. The only time they're happy is when the clock strikes, 4:30, 5 o'clock, when they get off work and they can go home and then just repeat the same routine that they've always done. That's another problem that I see a lot of people do, is they get into a mindset where it's just kind of a routine that is just nothing more than that what they've done the day before, and nothing changes. And that's another thing too, where you're talking about growing and just kind of maturing in your life and learning things, and just experiencing everything that life has to offer. If you're in that same routine all the time, it's repetitive, and there's nothing changing. And so, I actually, it rings a bell. It draws back a memory of going to Australia. My son lived over there for a whole year, and my mother's side of the family is from Australia. And so I had never been there before. My grandma Taylor, my mother's mom, she had passed away before the time, when I was graduating, high school and college and so forth. And, that was kind of one of her gifts that she wanted to give the kids, a trip to, Australia to see relatives and family, meet her side of the family, of course. And she passed away before she had an opportunity to take me over there. But my son actually went over there for just for playing games and, surfing and just having a good time as a kid. He was 20. I think he turned 21 when he was over there. But he went over there, and I'll say it bluntly, for shits and giggles. It really was. It was just really to go over there and be a kid and explore and all that. It had really nothing to do so much with my family being from there. He just wanted to go surf and just be a kid and have fun. And he heard a lot of good things about that over there. And I spent my daughter, myself, and my mom and my sister actually went over all at one time, basically, from two different areas. They flew out from Spokane, Washington. My daughter and I flew out from Jacksonville, Florida, of course. But we spent 3 weeks out there, and my point of my story really is the fact that just those 3 weeks in Australia, just watching and learning and seeing the culture and just seeing how people live and even meet my relatives and kind of, they're very happy people. That country's full of happy people. And one things, some of the things that I learned is that they don't work a whole lot. They work 4 days a week, and then they holiday. They call it holiday. They vacation. They spend time with their family. They go traveling. They do that the other three days per the week. So the mindset of living out there kind of I kind of tried to have that mindset, and I still do to this day. But even before going to Australia, my mindset was really focused on enjoying a life. I was spoiled for a while, for 9 years of my life, playing a game and getting paid some great money for doing that. So I got used to that mindset where you show up to work and it's actually fun and enjoyable. You have a team, you're accountable. And again, in last week's podcast, I was talking about just being accountable and enjoying, the respect and the teammates and just having great camaraderie with your fellow colleagues, we'll say. And, doing that and playing a game. Yes, the game was stressful, especially at the kicking position, incredibly stressful, but there were a lot of fun times, especially after a great victory, great win. Especially if I played well, those two things were good, and I could celebrate for a while. But just kind of having that mindset of playing, and that was my job, and that's where I'm going with that, is a really effective, trying to really maintain that same lifestyle. And there's a certain way of doing that. You have to obviously take life, serious in some sense. I try not to take life too serious, but I also want to, make an income and make a living, of course. So I want to find things that I'm passionate about so that I don't feel like it's much of a job and an occupation. Yes. So with regards to just kind of my mindset and kind of looking around, and again, I'm going back to the point where I was, I went through a divorce, and it was kind of, got really depressed and dark place, and food was my go-to. It was kind of my security. And so I stopped kind of working out. I wasn't really in the mood, really. I lost a lot of motivation. So combine that with, the fact that I'm not working out, and the fact that I'm eating, I wasn't eating, I guess I was eating enough. I was probably eating way too much, but I was eating a lot of crappy foods, and it was just comfort food really at that point. So, and I kind of relate that mindset and that kind of again, I don't want to say the lazy word, but just the comfort word, just kind of getting out there, just, eating what was available. I wasn't really that busy at the time, going through my divorce, other than having to fill out all that paperwork, which was a nightmare. I don't wish that upon anybody. It was a horrible experience for me, just because it was depressing. There was a lot of things I had to fill out, and a lot of stuff you had to do, and very expensive and all that. So with that in mind, though, I got in that mindset of just, that comfort food, and I wanted to feel good, and I felt depressed. And so food was my go-to, and not very healthy food. Of course, I wasn't that, playing the NFL, I knew a lot about nutrients and the proper foods to eat. But at that point in my life, I didn't care. So I just, I put on a lot of weight, here at my 5'8" on a good day, body frame. I was just over 200 pounds when I decided one day, tying my shoes. I was tying my shoes, and I was breathing heavy. I'm like, you know what? This is difficult. Why is this hard, tying my shoes? And that was an eye opener for me. I realized that, I got to change something. So I kind of relate that feeling and that mindset, and just kind of the heaviness that I was carrying around, literally and figuratively. I relate that to a lot of people really in the United States. It's because we've come so conveniently, the food and the industries are, there's addictions, there's things that are putting into that these companies are putting into our foods to make us addicted to them, and so it's a very difficult thing to understand. If you're not really careful and really knowledgeable about it, it's hard to understand why people are being unhealthy and putting on a lot of weight and depressed. In reality, you kind of think about it, it is very obvious when you look at the foods that we're eating. If you know what foods we're eating, Someone was said the other day that just opened my eyes. I'm like, wow, that makes so much sense. The gentleman said something to the effect of, if there's a health food section in a grocery store, what does that make the rest of the store? And that's really, you got to think about that for a second, because it's like, wait, that makes a lot of sense, because that means the other stuff in the whole, but basically, 90% or more of the store is not very healthy food. And again, you think about the money makers out there, and I won't go, into the too much detail with regards to what I believe is going on right now, as far as, just what has been going on for a long time. It's just kind of the concept of money is more important than our health. And by the way, when we're unhealthy, we can figure out ways to yes, we'll find some pills and some remedies for that, as far as big pharma will. I saw something the other day that Pfizer's been in business for 175 years and they've cured not one disease. Think about that one for a second. What have they been doing for 175 years other than just filling their pockets? That's my point. Is like there's all kinds of foods and crap out there that people are eating, and making us more unhealthy. And then of course we got to take pills when we're unhealthy. And then, I'll add it even more. Again, I'm not going to try to, convince anybody of anything, but I'm telling you, based on the information that I've read and the research that I've done, there's a lot of people getting paid out there. Doctors are incentivized. They get money for, pharmaceutical drugs in certain levels. And even during COVID, they were getting incentivized for the shots and all kinds of stuff. The procedures, what were they doing? The protocols. Remdesivir and all that stuff that they were giving patients, and events and all those stuff. They were incentivized by that stuff. Okay. And so again, this is a huge broad picture of really where our society, as a country, and I'll say a country because I don't think other our countries are as bad. I know there's others that are just like ours, but their foods are much better than ours. But if you go back and you just kind of consider just the mindset of the decision makers, I don't even know who those people are. Who is the one that decided a long time ago that eggs were unhealthy for us, that the cholesterol was such a bad thing? And now they're saying that now the FDA's changed their tune and said, oh, well, eggs are actually healthy for us. Who in the world decided that cereal should be on the food pyramid? I mean, that is crap. I'll be blunt and honest with you. That is complete crap. Why in the world would cereal be on a food pyramid? So again, it has a lot to do, in my opinion, with regards to just the attitude of money and who's out there making the decisions. And it's a vicious cycle of unhealthy people, and people are profiting on that. And that just makes me sick. And in all reality, if you think of like metabolic syndrome, 1 out of 3 people in the United States has metabolic syndrome. And if you have one of 5 different things, most of people typically would have, abdominal obesity, they'd have high blood sugar and high blood pressure. Those are the 3 most common ones that people have. And if you have those 3, you're in a metabolic syndrome. You've got some metabolic issues. And phytonutrients and plant-based foods and products and just natural foods, things that are not processed. If it's in a can, if it's in a plastic bag, it's been processed. If it's something like a fruit or vegetable, clearly those aren't processed. Now I got to tell you that not a lot of them are made very, very good in these days. They're grown on the same crops, have been growing the same plants for generations, for decades. And the nutritional value of those crops are depleting. The nutrients and the minerals are not quite there anymore. And so, and then let's add the pesticides and all the other junk that they're putting on them. And be careful too. Look at your labels. If you're going into an organic shop to do your grocery shopping, look at the labels and see if they're made somewhere else or where they're made, because there's not really a lot of truth to organic stuff. And just, again, this is my opinion, but I've done a lot of research on this stuff and looked at the things that don't make a lot of sense. These things are in these organic stores, and they're not necessarily organic. They're still getting sprayed with stuff. So be careful with what you think you're eating. Flea markets and stuff where they're selling a lot of like natural, like homegrown foods and fruits and vegetables. Those are the best places to go. Plus they're not very expensive, So things to consider. But again, it's just the mindset. What I'm really trying to go for, with this podcast specifically, is the fact that there's a lot of unhealthy Americans out there, and we have to really do a better job of understanding why we were unhealthy. There's a lot of fake supplements out there. There's a lot of fake foods out there. There's, when you look at what oils are being used in these foods when they cook them, what oils are just used in them for other reasons. But there's a lot, like seed oils, seed oils are not good for us. You gotta figure the type of oils you're looking for to consume, and be careful with what kinds of vegetable oils out there. They're not good. They're highly processed. If you looked at the way that they actually create those things, you'll understand why they're not good for you. And so ultimately what's happening in the world, well, United States more specifically, is the fact that we're getting a lot of really crappy foods with regards to the processed foods, and they're made the cheapest way possible. And so that's another way too, if you can kind of understand, cheap foods are going to be worse for you. I mean, you look at the fast food industry, and you look at how cheap foods, like McDonald's and Taco Bell's, are incredibly cheap. And so because they're using very little, quality foods, fake stuff, even, if you will. I know that they pump chickens full of this material that makes them look plump and makes them way heavier. So now you're paying more weight for the weight. But in reality, it's really not the chicken that weighs as much as it really does. There's this junk that the fillers are putting into it. And colors. If you've ever cut open a watermelon and soak a little leaf of water, like a little clip of watermelon, like a slab of watermelon, soak it in water and see if the water turns red. If the water turns red, it's been colored. Okay. That's just simple stuff like that. Okay. Why do we need, again, I said this in the last podcast about cereal. Like, why do Fruit Loops have to be so brightly colored? Well, in different countries, they use beets and carrots and different things like that to make the reds and the oranges. Well, here in the United States, they use food coloring that are toxic for us, that cause cancer. But again, who's making those decisions? Why is that okay? And so you really, you have to be really careful about what it is you're putting in your body. Yes, we are what we eat, but we are what we absorb. The absorption process too is another huge deal. Where there's a lot of nutrients, natural nutrients, that don't really absorb very well in our bodies, and we could use some more absorption technologies in those, of course. But with regards to supplementation, there are companies out there that provide a lot of great quality supplements, and that provide the cellular absorption that is required. Not very many. There's only 98% of the countries, or the companies on the marketplace right now, that have supplements and products. They don't use any cellular absorption technologies. So very, very little do. But I think that's going to be something that's going to be a new thing in the world, and with regards to just getting people healthier. And that's really the bottom line. It's really it's sad to see a lot of people, because it really is a vicious cycle. It really is. When you think about your health, there's a lot of aspects to it. There's your nutrition, there's your mental health, there's your physical health. There's a lot of different things that are involved with your nutrition and how you are on a basically a daily basic level. And it's really difficult to understand how people can get to a position. I say it's difficult. I know how easy it is, because I was one of them too, where you get in a position where you just, you put on some weight. You notice you're getting heavier, but you're just so in tune with your daily routine. And that's not good, because it's just going to get worse. And then you're going to start popping more pills because you've got this problem, and then this problem, and that pill from this problem is going to cause a chain reaction, where you're going to have another pill for this side effect that you're going to have from that pill. So there's going to be a lot of pills you're going to start taking. And again, you think about the cost of healthcare. Okay, great. Yes, we understand healthcare is not cheap. But why don't we avoid the doctor? Why don't we stay healthy in the first place? I can promise you that becoming healthier and being healthier, maintaining your health with eating nice, great, quality phytonutrient rich foods, and exercising and doing some daily mental, training and help, and just, being a better person, doing some self growing sort of books, reading those books and watching podcasts and things like that, you'll understand that it's definitely worth it. and it's a heck of a lot cheaper than when you get involved in, having to rely on doctors and medications to take care of you for the rest of your life. And that's really where I've always always been that way. Even more so now, where I'm becoming more involved in proactive wellness and avoiding the doctor. And I'll be transparent and honest with you. And you're going to find that out about me on this show. I could not tell you the last time I officially saw a doctor. Okay. When I stopped playing in the NFL, and we had some healthcare for a while, and yes, I did that. I did dentist and did all stuff, and saw my doctor occasionally here and there. But again, even if I needed a checkup, I'm fine, no big deal. Now, again, I'm not saying that's the right thing to do. Clearly, you should see your doctor and get checked up. But call me stubborn if you want. But my point is that I don't feel bad. Yes, there could be some underlying things that I don't feel that I probably should get looked at, but the NFL does provide, mind and body screening things, opportunities for us to get, a pretty detailed checklist of things that we might have that are wrong with us. But I've done a few of those, probably 3 or 4 in my life, and since I've retired, and things have checked out, normal. So I don't feel the need to see any doctor anytime soon, but again, just going back to my point about being proactive in my health and wellness, that's really where I'm going with that. Is really I'm trying to really supplement, because that's another thing too. I think supplements are very important, especially good ones, companies that provide really good quality plant-based nutritional supplements. But also, our company 3 obviously provides the cellular absorption technology. So I think that's a huge deal, because of, again, going back to my point about our foods and what we're eating. We're not really sure we're getting a whole lot of nutrient-rich, phytonutrients in our foods, and especially like even if you're eating fruits and vegetables all day long, you don't know what's on them and in them as far as the nutritional value. There was something not too long ago we talked about, that you need to eat the equivalent of 18 apples today that would give you the equivalent nutritional value of 1 apple grown in 1980. Okay, if you think about that, so you're gonna have to eat a lot more of the produce out there because the nutritional value has gone down so much. Okay, so there are 600,000 species of plants on planet Earth, and we've only studied about 5% of the medicinal, the phytonutrient values within those plants. So there's still a ton of discovery to be had, and I mentioned it before that you look at back in the day when your medicines were remedies. Okay, they were things that were constructed from different plants, and honey and different natural things that are available to us, mixed all together, and it's taken and it's curing some certain issues or problems, right? So when you think about where we are today and how the technology has exploded, I was talking to one of my kickers the other day about the technology and how quickly it's grown. Up until the early 1900s, we didn't, maybe the car and the wheel were invented, but there wasn't much before then. So basically, the technology and the things that we're using today has exploded in less than 100 years, or 100 years or so, we'll say. So you're going to see a lot of, in my opinion, a very dramatic increase of technology and a lot of different things that are going to really improve people's health. Now, again, if we can get people to understand really, the lifestyle, and obviously our lifestyles are important to us, but the people who are in charge and the decision makers of the foods that we're consuming, you got to look past them and kind of do your own research and kind of, figure things out for yourself, because, that's what I've done. I've done a lot of that because I'm curious. I want to know why things are happening. And again, I go back to my kicking. I'm a reverse engineer. I like to, I find out the cause of the problem before, don't just focus on the problem itself. You want to find the root cause of the problem before you can even address the actual problem itself. And so that's kind of the same thing with our health and wellness. I think that, when you get into a position where you're not healthy, well, you've done it to yourself because you weren't looking into what it is you were actually consuming. And, especially if you're not working out, there's a lot of things that issues that people run into, without, physical fitness, thinking of getting older and osteoporosis and things like that. And kind of how, we need to have strong muscles to keep our bones strong. Right. It's kind of it's a common sense kind of thing. And, I don't believe that God made us to lay around and kind of just be lazy and not use our bodies. I think we're meant to be on this earth to use our bodies, use our minds, serve others, help others, do whatever it takes to love and support other people. And there's a lot of people out there that just kind of maybe individual people that just kind of think that, again, going into that comfort zone, they get into that comfort reality and they think, well, it's just the way it is. I'm going to eat the foods because I'm going to the grocery store. And people are still, yes, microwaves are a thing. I'm like, well, when microwaves first came out, I was just such a cool concept. And then, later on, as I got older, I kind of started to learn a little bit about microwaves. And here's a little test if you want to do it on your own. My buddy Bernie, who passed away from COVID, he had some blood issues and he had some cancer in his blood. He actually had the same cancer that Steve Jobs had, right? So Bernie didn't die from cancer; he died from COVID, unfortunately. But he wasn't the most healthiest guy in the world. But ultimately, what he had told me at one point, and this is something his doctor told me. He said, "Listen," he says, if you don't believe the whole microwave thing, do a little test. Put microwave a glass of water, okay, and then put and have two plants and water them. One with your microwaved water, obviously let it cool down. Water one of them with the microwaved water, and then water the other one with just regular tap water. See which one dies first. It didn't take long. The plant that Bernie did it. He tried it. He said the plant that he was feeding with microwaved water died within a week. It was dead. So again, I've heard doctors and scientists talk about microwaves, saying the best way to kill yourself is to eat microwave food every day. And that's just like, wow, that was a huge deal. Okay. I honestly don't microwave my foods anymore. And I don't microwave anything clearly I don't microwave anymore, but just heating up anything in plastics. That's another thing. You think about the microplastics, and there's actually nanoplastics now that they're discovering that are even smaller than microplastics. So we are consuming a lot of toxins on a daily basis just because we're eating foods that are packaged in plastic. We're eating foods that are in plastic, and everything's in plastic. I don't even understand the paper straws that are covered in plastic wrapping. I'm still blown away by that. Like, there's a lot of things that don't make a lot of sense to me. And so, but just use your head and just kind of understand and think about, kind of the things that are out there and how we can actually be better as a society and healthier as a society and live longer. I mean, there's a lot of things that are affecting our health on a daily basis. And I'm a very passionate and optimistic kind of person. And I want to make sure that not only I'm helping myself clearly, because I want to be around a long time, that I also want to, share with others and just, get them on the right track and change the mindset. Really, that's kind of another aspect, obviously, of the podcast is kind of, trying to get inside the head of people and just, figure out why decisions are made and what's the influencing factors of decisions. You have to break it down like that. And honestly, when I'm talking about like with football and stuff, I was getting to a point where why was I so mentally strong? Well, because I dumbed a lot of things down. I made things a lot easier on myself. Obviously a kicker in the NFL, we have a lot of pressure anyway. So what the biggest thing for me, the biggest help for me is to take a lot of pressure off myself. And to do so, I have to kind of, dumb down the process and make, focus on the things that are really working and simplify things. And so with regards to just living a daily life, it's kind of the same thing. You want to simplify your life in a way where you're not, stressing yourself out mentally. That's a huge deal, because I don't know if you understand how much stress affects your health. Stress is going to affect your sleep as well. And lack of sleep is a huge thing for your health. And again, if you don't believe me, do some research and figure out on your own about how much your sleep is so important to you for your health. So ultimately, our foods, what we're eating, our exercise, our diet, our exercise, our sleep, our mental capacity as far as, being able to handle a lot of pressure and not getting stressed out about stuff. One thing I learned a long time ago is not to worry. And again, I'm a victim of this too. So a lot of these things I'm telling you, I don't think that I'm oblivious to it, and I've never done it. I've probably done every little thing that I'm talking about. I'm oblivious to this concept where, I've thought about things that I can't control. And I was taught one day is like, hey, why would you want to think too hard about something that's totally out of your control? You have no control over what could happen here, and you're worried about it. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. And so, kicking, of course, I deal with the weather. I can't control the weather. I can't turn the rain off or the wind off. I just have to deal with it. And so that's another important point about it. Every daily everyday life is to just understand how to deal with certain things in a way that that you can't control. But here's the thing: is like when you're talking about diet and exercise, you have a lot of control over that. Now, again, if you're going to say, "Oh, I work too much," well, let's try to find something where you're not working so much. And I understand, that it's just the way we've grown up and it's just the way society is. But I would really like to have people understand that there's a better way of living than just, going to a cubicle every day and just, of course, so a lot of excuses for a lot of people about that, as far as, having a lot of time spent at work and not be able to work out and eat right. Of course, that's another, concept as far as my foods. I don't eat well because I'm always on the go. I travel too much. Okay, well, are you traveling too much because work is requiring you to travel so much? Well, what do you think is more important? I mean, yes, everyone needs a job and everyone needs to make an income and a living. I understand that, but when it comes to the fact where it's actually affecting your actual life and your longevity, and how bad is it going to be, towards the end of your life? I hate to be rude and blunt here, but you got to think about those things, when you get old and if you're not healthy at all, it's gonna be a miserable time to deal with, and very expensive too, by the way, because you're gonna have to rely on your doctor to keep you alive, and in some cases, clearly, I'm not getting too I don't want to get too deep here, but you understand my point. And, the fact is that we want to be healthy as a society, healthy as a person. Obviously, everyone's your own individual, your responsibility of what it is you're putting in your body. So, I want to make sure that you understand there are some really good options out there as far as, diets and exercises and everything, and mental and I just want to really portray the fact that life is just too good to just be lazy and kind of be complacent with your health. I think that a lot of people don't think that their health is going to be bad until it's bad, and then you have to regret, And so, one concept too, another thing really to think about, and this will be last point I want to touch upon is, when you talk about learning a process or a system, with regards to kicking, I always revert back to that because I relate a lot of things, because it is very relatable in this point as well. Is that there was a system that I used when I kicked a football, and it was something that I learned and I was taught. But if I didn't stick with that system, and if I wanted to change it on a daily basis, I'm not going to be very consistent with my kicking, right? And so you transfer that into the everyday life. If you're consistently eating poorly, you're going to be, the process is it's going to take a while. You won't notice it eventually. You'll notice it eventually. You won't notice it first. You'll notice eventually, over time, that you'll become very unhealthy. Okay. The problem is, and this is a very good point I'm trying to make here. The problem is, it took you a long time to become unhealthy. And if you wanted to just start your diet and you gave it up in a week, don't you understand the concept of getting back to health is going to take some time too? It's just going to be on the same sort of concept and process that you took getting unhealthy. You're just going to have to rewind that and start a new process to become healthy again. And again, it's going to take time. We talk about, with football and lifting weights and stuff. I'm like, man, if you wanted to be I'm gonna bench 400 pounds today, and you've never benched in your life, that's obviously unrealistic. That's not going to happen. So it's going to take you time. It's going to take a process. It's going to take time to develop your muscles before you can get under that bench and bench that 400 pounds up. And so you have to understand it's a give and take, and it's equal on both sides, right? You want to be healthy. If you've become unhealthy, it's going to take you the same amount of time, maybe longer, maybe shorter, just depends on how well and disciplined you are to become healthy again. And so when you talk about like the New Year's, and it's a good time to actually revert back to that, as far as, it's 2025, brand new year. These New Year's resolutions, people join the gym and they last maybe a month, and they, it wasn't working for me. I didn't really lose weight. Well, little did you know, it depends on what kind of workouts you were doing, but your body will gain muscle before it starts to really get rid of a lot of the fat. So guess what? Muscle weighs more than fat. So if you're going to be one of those guys that, gets into the gym and wants to, I want to lose weight. I'm starting my new year 2025 in the gym and I'm going to lose weight. Well, you give it a month and you feel like you gained weight. Like, well, this isn't working. Well, you just have to understand that muscle weighs more than fat. Okay. And you're going to gain muscle before you start losing fat. Okay. So, but again, once you get over that hump and you start to change your metabolism, going back to that whole metabolism syndrome that people have, metabolic syndrome, I should say. But with regards to just that whole concept, you have to understand you got yourself in that place to begin with. And so you have to understand and be patient. That's another thing too that I really like to focus on, is just being patient and just trusting. Okay. So again, with the concept of getting healthier and implementing, supplements into your diet, or changing your diet altogether, getting into the gym, that the results that you're going to benefit from are not going to happen in a week, 2 weeks, 4 weeks. And again, depends on your your lifestyle, your frame, your body frame, just your metabolic rate, a lot of stuff that plays a factor in there. But you have to understand also that you have to be patient and just be thankful and be proud that you've made that commitment and stick with it. That's a tough thing for a lot of people to stay committed to what they've said they're going to do. And that's one thing I like to pride myself on. Again, I'm a victim of it too. I've given up on some things before in my life that I look back and say, I probably shouldn't have done that. I probably should have just stuck with it. But yes, I've seen both sides of it as well. So the idea, with kicking, obviously, if you want to find a passion, that's one thing. But when you get involved in understanding, the passion and wondering, what it is you want to do in your life and having fun doing so, part of your life is, a big part of your life is your health. And so you have to really, really focus. I think everybody in the world should be focusing on their health at some point, obviously, but you get into a position where you're complacent and you just go with the flow and you go with society. And that's another, thing that, these are my opinions about, mainstream media and how many commercials do you see and what are those? Just do some research for me real quick. When you're not say real quick, but just when you're watching TV one time and you're just watching your major networks and you're watching the shows and of the commercials you're watching, just take note. Maybe have a piece of paper next to you and write down what company or what was the actual what was this company trying to sell you. And think there's so many pharmaceutical ads out there. There's so many, diet pill ads out there. There's a lot of just, things that are just not really good in my mind. There's just a lot of, again, because of my attitude towards big pharma and just what's being said out there and what people are doing to try to maintain their health. And so with that said, I'm going to just end on this as far as, just make sure you find your system, you find your purpose. You want to, obviously make sure that you're staying away from the doctor and be proactive with your life and you'll thank yourself later on for it. You're going to live a much happier, healthier life. And I'm living proof of it. I've been up and down a few times in my life as far as my weight and my attitude. And I know I've witnessed both sides of it. So I know that just me personally, I'm a much happier person. So with that said, we'll end on that and I'll definitely enjoy sharing my life and just my knowledge. I say limited knowledge. I do know some things. I've just experienced a lot of stuff in my life. So with that said, I want to, just encourage you guys to be happy, healthy, and strong. And we will see you next week. So for that, have a good night and we'll see you next week.
Thank you for watching Zealous Wellness with Mike Hollis. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. See you next time.